Yesterday in Louisville, there was a massive fire at the Kentucky Cardinal Inn, and crews had a tough time putting it out. We have a heart-stopping video that shows officers in Iowa catching children tossed from a burning building. And this may be the craziest story you hear all day. It can only be described as a daring robbery with a clerk that is not afraid to fight back.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. I'm Taylor Upchurch. Today is March 20th. Let's check in with Brandon Robinson for a look at your forecast this morning. Brandon, spring is almost on the way.
Listen, it is almost sprung, but not quite yet. It'll be here a little bit later on today, but not a bad start to the day, at least condition-wise. Temperatures a little bit on the chilly side for some. Let's take a look at the cameras this morning. Outside the station here, WYMT in Hazard, it's all quiet. A few clouds drifting across the area. You can see that there on the satellite radar loop for the last 6 hours. And again, no major issues, just some cloud cover this morning. The sun's going to filter through that. The moon has been filtering through it all morning long. Again, we've had some mud, quite a bit of mud over the last few months, but I guess it's got on my brain this morning. Temperatures across the area, the 20s down south, mid to upper 20s and low 30s. And then as we head into the eastern counties back over toward the Big Sandy, anywhere from the mid to upper 30s. At forecast today, we'll see those sun and clouds back and forth and temperatures getting close to the 60-degree mark later on. The rest of the forecast coming up here in just a few minutes. Taylor?
Thank you, Brandon. Yesterday in Louisville, there was a massive fire at the Kentucky Cardinal Inn. No one was injured in the fire, but crews say people living there made it out safely because of smoke detectors. 25 to 30 people are now working with the Red Cross to find a place to stay. Firefighters say there is a reason why this fire is difficult to put out.
This side of town, we have poor water pressure, so we were kind of limited on what we could do with our hose lines and master streams.
The fire department says the cause of the fire is still under investigation. They have not determined where the fire started in the building. And a heart-stopping video shows officers in Iowa catching children tossed from a burning building. The structure in Des Moines caught on fire Tuesday morning, leaving a woman and her 3 kids trapped on the 3rd floor. The woman then tossed the kids one by one to the officers, and the cops miraculously catch each child without any of them getting injured. The mom eventually managed to escape the fire as well. And the woman who climbed the Statue of Liberty last 4th of July will not face jail time. Patricia Akumu arrived at the courthouse in New York Tuesday with her mouth taped shut. She said it's a symbol the government is trying to silence her from protesting President Trump's immigration policy. The judge sentenced her to 5 years probation. Okumu will also have to complete 200 hours of community service. And surveillance cameras show how a daring robbery played out at a North Huntsville gas station. Police say Seth Holcomb walked up to the counter to make a purchase. He leaves the store, then comes back in as if to make a second purchase. That's when he pulled out a knife at the counter. What he didn't expect was that the clerk would pull out a machete of his own. A full-on knife fight broke out, tearing up the store. Holcomb eventually escaped the store by throwing something through the window, but the clerk chased him outside. Lady Nicholson was waiting outside the store near the suspect's car. She allegedly also pulled out a knife. Holcomb eventually ran back inside the store and took the cash drawer out of the register. And there are signs the petrochemical plant fire outside Houston is nearly out. The company that owns the plant, Intercontinental Terminals Company, added a 15-person crew that's experienced in fighting tank fires and brought in more than high-pressure pumps and suppressant foam. Officials are also responding to residents' concern about the air quality. CBS's News' Laura Podesta has the latest.
Progress in fighting the fire that's been burning since Sunday at the petrochemical plant near Houston. As thick black smoke continued to rise some 4,000 feet into the air Tuesday, company officials said they were not sure how long the fire would rage.
Our primary goal right now is to contain the fire to this tank farm area. In that process, with wind and the way the directions shift, that could set off another tank, which is kind of the issues we're seeing.
But early today, reports of containment started to emerge. Images showed the flames dying down. A leak in one of the plant's tanks is believed to be the initial cause. Officials told residents there's no measurable air quality problem from the burning chemicals.
And it's really just this contrast of, you see the plume, but the monitors are showing that the levels are fine.
Monitoring by the EPA and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality reported nothing alarming. Most of the chemicals in the storage tanks contain gasoline components, according to officials.
Those things burn in a really black, disgusting blob, but there's not toxins in there. There can be particulates in there. There may be ash that's coming out, but those things are not, they're the same risks you would have in your backyard fire when you get ash out of that.
But an advocacy group, the Environmental Defense Fund, warns the smoke could eventually settle. It's now sending in its own air quality monitors. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Experts say particles produced by the fire could pose the greatest potential for risk, especially for people with asthma, cardiac, and respiratory problems. And not much is left of a Letcher County restaurant after it caught fire early yesterday morning. WYMT's Lauren McCourt talked with community members that say this is a great loss for their small town.
It only opened a little more than a year.
I was their very first customer.
Bentley's Drive-In was a place you could go for a good sandwich and milkshake.
But I know one of the dollars that I had given, they actually hung on the inside above the window where they reached your food to you.
Unfortunately, early Tuesday morning, the drive-in went up in flames.
When we arrived on the scene, there was smoke showing.
A little after 3:30, Neon Fire Department showed up to what they first thought would be an easy fire to control.
All the doors were locked, no windows were open.
But they quickly realized it was going to be a much more difficult task.
The biggest struggle we had was the inside the building. It was kind of like a maze. There was so much stuff in there.
As the flames grew larger, so did the risk of someone getting hurt.
It started getting too hot and we pulled them out.
Now, all that's left are the walls and memories of that building.
It's tough on a small community like this. We don't have a lot of businesses here in Neon.
It may have been a small restaurant.
It's affecting the whole town, really, because we won't have the traffic that we once had.
But it's a huge loss. In Letcher County, Lauren McCourt, WYMT Mountain News.
The cause of the fire is still unknown. And a death investigation is underway in Rowan County after a body was found burned inside a truck. The Rowan County coroner says the body was found after a forestry plane spotted a forest fire near south of Moorhead on Monday. Fire crews found the body when they responded to the fire. State police say at this point the death isn't suspicious, but they are waiting on an autopsy.
But it is indicative of the conditions, and although we've had a record wet year, the fact that we're having a fire this size shows you how in just a few days conditions can change, and today it's supporting a pretty substantial sized fire.
Forestry officials say the fire is still burning but appears to be contained. And people in Pike County should expect to pay more for their trash pickup bills. During a meeting yesterday, the fiscal court agreed to raise the garbage pickup rate. Officials have been debating on raising the rate for the last several months. Remember, county officials told us the current landfill is running out of room and could no longer be operational in the near future. The three-option county leaders discussed we're building a new landfill, expanding the current landfill, or transporting the trash to surrounding county landfills. And a man in Perry County is facing a second-degree animal cruelty charge after allegedly driving with his dog tied up to the back of his car. Officials say L.H. Neese was mad at his dog for running off, so he tied it to his truck. A trail of bloody paw prints led them to where the dog was. The dog, renamed Sinatra, is in Louisville being treated. He is expected to make a full recovery. And it was a somber and emotional day yesterday for friends and family of Levi Grubbs. The 43-year-old Perry County dispatcher died Sunday after a car crash. Yesterday, the visitation for Grubbs was held at the Hal Roger Forum in Hazard. Family members say the only bright spot through all this tragedy has been the outreach and support from the community.
The community's been great. I mean, when he posted on Facebook, when he said he had well wishes and, great spirits, he had, almost 385 likes, 400 likes. I mean, and then all of a sudden, his death was shocking, but the community's been great. We've been getting a lot of support.
Oak says he will always miss going riding with Levi Grubbs. He says Grubbs was very caring and always looked out for him like he was his brother. And 2 people are dead and others injured after a charter bus crashed on Interstate 95 in Prince George County Tuesday morning. According to Virginia State Police, the bus overturned when it attempted to take an exit ramp. The bus was carrying 57 people, including the driver, and was traveling from Florida to New York. It's unclear what caused the bus to overturn, but it was foggy during the time of the crash. The driver is facing charges of manslaughter. And now let's check in with Brandon Robinson for a look at your spring weather.
Well, the forecast this morning, not too bad. You can see on the UVA WISE camera right here, it's starting to, moon coming down here. Actually, if I move the other way, you can probably see a little bit better, but you can see the moon starting to set this morning, and we're going to continue to see the moon set and the sun rise here in the next couple of hours. Temperatures down to the south and to the west, a little cooler this morning, upper 20s, mid to upper 20s, and low 30s. We go up to the north, a little bit warmer there, mid to upper 30s. A little extra on the coffee meter this morning, maybe getting close to max warming in some of those areas down to the south. But the out-the-door forecast shows we are going to see some warmer temperatures, especially later today, as we top out right around 60 under sun and clouds. Taylor?
Thank you for joining us on Mountain News this morning. We will have a pet from a local shelter in our studio in just a few minutes.